What's going on, fellow growers? Andrew from Tail Waggin Farms. Here, another beautiful spring day in North Carolina zone 7B8A. And today I want to talk about where to place your beehive. So today we're going to go over a couple of the different criteria on where is the best place to place your beehive to have the best success for both you and your bees. So the first big factor, and I think it's possibly the most important factor, is where we're going to place this hive in relation to it being easy to access and also to make it so that it's not going to be a nuisance to, say, the neighbor's kids or somebody walking down the street or our pets or us mowing the grass even. So some of the factors that we want to look at is bees fly pretty much in a straight line. They find a nectar source or a water source, they lift off and fly straight to it. If there's a fence in a way, they'll go up 8 feet and stay 8 feet up and fly directly to that source. So we want to look and make sure that there's a physical barrier of some sort in between where our hive is and say a high activity area like the neighbor's house with a basketball court in their driveway, or where we're gonna mow the lawn, or we just have some space. We wanna have a buffer. You don't wanna be running your lawnmower right next to the hive. I made that mistake our first year and I paid for it with some stings. But we could pick out a location that is both kinda out of the way, but easily enough accessible that we can get to the hive and, go out there and watch the bees and tend to them. For my location today, I've chose up here in Kim's actual cut flower area. I talked with her about it and she's comfortable working around the bees, and we'll plant more perennial stuff and grasses and stuff that we don't really harvest as much nearest to the hive, and then I'm going to have a little bit of space behind it so I can work. That's super important when we lay out the hive. We got to have space around it. You can't have the hive abutting up against something because it makes it really hard to work into the hive when we're doing inspections and adding boxes and things like that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to lay down some landscape fabric in this area right here, and that way I don't have to worry about running a mower or a string trimmer up next to the hive and trying to avoid disturbing them with the vibrations of all that stuff. One thing to consider when laying out your hive in your garden area is where your hose is going to run. You don't want to possibly knock over your hive with the hose or whack it on the side and make the bees angry. We're going to protect our hives with T-posts. So now that we've picked out the general area where we want to lay out our beehives, let's talk about another couple factor. I almost like to treat the bees, get distracted by the pretty little spring birds here. I almost like to treat our bees as if they're plants. So they do need upkeep in the form of water, and they need to have access to food. So as far as water goes, you want to have a water source of some sort within about 100 feet of the beehives. We're going to put a little bird bath or a little basin of water, probably about 30 feet away towards the other end of the cut flower area, and we'll have the drip irrigation just fill it up for us every time we water the flower bed. The water does not have to be crystal clear, pristine water. The big factor though is you want to make sure that there's no pesticides in that water. You don't want to be poisoning your bees. So don't, count on a neighbor's swimming pool, something like that. Just put out some water for your bees. Another way that the bees are similar to plants is they are in need of certain light requirements. So we want to have preferably 8 hours of sun for the bees, with the opening of the hive facing east to south, somewhere in that quadrant. So I'm going to set ours up where it's going to be facing southeast, so that the morning sun will come up and hit the hive, and then hopefully towards the afternoon as the sun goes this way, they'll get a little bit of shade in the afternoon to kind of help them regulate the heat during the day. The bees do a pretty good job regulating the heat in the hive. You'll see them out front fanning their wings, moving air out of the hive when it gets really hot out, or they'll be bearding on the front of the hive, which is basically just a bunch of bees on the front hanging on there, just kind of out there getting some air. That's another reason that the water is so important to have nearby, because they do use the water to also regulate the temperature in the hive. Another factor that we want to look at is how far away from objects we're going to have the hive placed. So I'm going to put the hive stand a couple feet away from this fence so I can walk behind the hive, because the bees come and go from the entrance, and this way we can easily just scoot behind and not disturb them when we're going over to the water spigot, or, you know, over here dealing with the plants. Also, you want to make it so that things can't really jump onto the hive, and it's nice to have some sort of a little windbreak from the north winds in the winter time that helps the hive stay a little warmer and regulate the temperature in the winter. My next step here is I'm going to get the hive stand placed, and we'll talk about the hive stand once I get it moved into position. This right here is our hive stand that we used in the past. We used to have 3 hives on it, can fit them comfortably. I have tie down rings here for when the hives get tall and we have big storms coming. I'd throw a tie down strap over the top to make sure they wouldn't blow over in the wind. But the key factors you want in a hive stand is you want something sturdy, not gonna wobble on you. This is constructed with just some scrap 4x4s as legs, a couple of 2x4s. These are pressure treated fence panels, pickets. So all in all, pretty cheap construction, but it's held up for a good 10 years now. When laying out the hive stand, what you want is you don't want it too high. So we're looking at, you know, for me, it's the top of my shin, a couple inches below my knees, so probably 16, 18 inches tall at the highest. This way, when you're stacking boxes, it's not going to get too high, but the hive will be off the ground, protecting it from rotting, and also it'll kind of keep some of the critters from getting into it and scratching around and destroying the hive. The inside of the hive, once it's filled with honey and wax, becomes a place that critters would like to have a little snack. I mean, animals love honey just as much as we do. So when I placed this, I did place it about, I'd say 2.5, 3 feet from the fence here. This way I can walk behind and move around comfortably. When I'm moving boxes, I'll be able to pick up and set them down on either side if I need to. And also, it'll give us room to get to the other areas of the flower beds without disturbing the bees. I plan on placing my hive, I think I'm probably gonna put it in the middle spot for my new hive. As far as leveling it out, if you're running foundationless, you really want it as level laterally as possible, because the bees are gonna be building their own comb without any foundation as a guide. And if you're off plumb at all, the comb goes off plumb and starts getting in between frames, even more so than it normally does. But I have it pretty level, side to side, and then I have a little bit of tilt down where the entrance of the hive is. That way if water gets in, it will flow out the front of the entrance. So I'm liking this placement. I put a couple of rocks under this end to stabilize it and get everything where I would like it. Feels pretty sturdy. So I think it's time for me to place my hive here and see how it looks. Got our hive out of the hoop house finally. I'm just gonna go over real quick, double check everything in here, make sure it looks good. So pulling off the outer cover, the inner cover. Checking our frames, making sure that no mice or anything got to them or any wax moths. Looks all good on the inside. So we got our bottom board here with the deep side up. Got a honeybee coming to check it out already. I didn't even get bees here yet. They're not coming till hopefully Monday, so hopefully a couple of days. So bottom board, then we have our brood box going on. It's all squared up, that looks good. Got our frames in place. Inner cover goes on. This is just to keep the top lid, the top cover from sticking. Put the top cover on, the telescoping top cover. That's on. What's nice, it doesn't have a super snug fit, so it's got a little bit of wiggle room, which really helps when the bees try to glue it down a bunch. Nice, beautiful metal cover. Got our entrance reducer. I'll just place it in here now with the smallest hole, even though we don't have any bees yet. This looks like a pretty good placement for a hive. Starting to get excited. So one last thing I want to talk about when it comes to the hive stand, and I was thinking about it when I was putting this up here. You want to make sure your hive stand can withstand some weight. And also you want it placed in an area where you feel comfortable moving with weight. This box right here, when it is full, will probably weigh between 60 and 70 pounds. So you want to have enough room where you can comfortably move that around, because it's 60 pounds of buzzing things that if you drop it, they're going to get very angry, and it's not a good time when you drop a box. We'll do it at some point, but try to avoid that at all costs. So when we start adding up how many boxes there's probably going to be 2 deep boxes, and hopefully by the end of the season, 2 medium boxes on top. You're looking at close to 200 pounds on this base. And if we had 3 hives here, that'd be 600 pounds. So you just want to make sure your footing is pretty sturdy. Give your hive stand a little shimmy. Make sure it's not moving around too much. Well, thank you for coming out today to Tail Wagging Farms and helping me place my hive here up in the cut flower area. Looking forward to getting bees again in a couple of days. They have plenty to eat right now, so we're not going to worry about feeding them. The nectar flow is on. We've got all of our trees in bloom, and got lots of flowers in bloom all over the area. So please like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments if you have any other questions, or if you're getting bees this year too. So have a great day, and happy growing.